Luna sat quietly in her small chair inside the hidden radio station. The station was built inside a big round rock that floated in space. Many other rocks floated around her station like sleeping giants. These rocks were special. They had pretty crystals growing on them that made soft humming sounds like a mother singing to her baby. The young Twi'lek woman had blue skin that looked like the color of a calm ocean. Her long head tails hung down over her shoulders like two gentle snakes made of silk. She wore a simple brown jacket that was soft and warm. The jacket had many pockets filled with small tools for fixing radio equipment. Luna reached out with her slender fingers and touched the radio controls. The buttons were smooth and warm under her touch. Each button glowed with a different color. Some were soft green like new grass. Others were gentle blue like a summer sky. A few buttons glowed, with warm yellow light like sunshine through morning clouds. The radio station was small but very cozy. Soft lights hung from the curved ceiling. The lights looked like tiny stars that had come down from the sky to keep Luna company. The walls were covered with thick blankets that made everything feel warm and safe. The floor had a soft carpet that felt good under Luna's bare feet. Next to Luna sat her friend Pip. Pip was a small round robot with 3 legs. His metal body was painted in gentle colors of cream and light blue. Pip made soft beeping sounds when he was happy. Right now he was making very quiet beeps because he was getting sleepy. His little electronic eye was getting dimmer as the night grew later. Luna looked out the big round window of her station. Outside she could see the asteroid field stretching far into space. The rocks floated slowly, like they were dancing to music only they could hear. Purple and pink lights from distant stars painted everything in soft colors. It looked like someone had taken a giant paintbrush and made gentle strokes across the darkness of space. The crystals on the nearby asteroids were glowing brighter now. Luna had noticed this happening every night when bedtime came to this part of the galaxy. The crystals seemed to know when creatures across the stars were getting ready to sleep. They would start to hum gentle songs that made everyone feel peaceful and calm. Luna turned on her radio equipment. The machines made soft, whirring sounds as they came to life. Green and blue lights blinked slowly on the control panel. The radio antenna on top of her station began to turn around slowly like a flower following the sun across the sky. She had been working at this hidden radio station for many months. The Rebel Alliance had sent her here to listen for enemy transmissions. But tonight felt different. Tonight the crystals were humming a new song. Tonight the stars seemed to be calling to her in voices she had never heard before. Luna put on her headphones. They were soft and comfortable around her pointed ears. She began to tune the radio to different frequencies. Most nights she heard the usual sounds of space. Sometimes she heard the distant chatter of Imperial pilots. Other times, she heard the beeping of navigation computers on cargo ships. But tonight something magical was happening. As Luna turned the dial slowly, she began to hear new sounds. These were not the harsh sounds of war or the busy sounds of trade ships. These were gentle sounds like wind through leaves or water flowing over smooth stones. The sounds were coming from a frequency she had never used before. It was a very special frequency that only appeared at certain times. Luna realized this frequency only worked when most of the galaxy was getting ready for sleep. It was like a secret radio channel that connected all the peaceful places in the stars. Luna's heart began to beat with excitement. She had found something wonderful. She could use this special frequency to send messages of hope and peace to anyone who might be listening. She could help people across the galaxy feel less alone during the long dark nights of space. She leaned forward and spoke softly into the microphone. Her voice was gentle and warm like honey mixed with starlight. "Hello," she whispered. "My name is Luna. I am broadcasting from a small station among the singing crystals. If anyone out there can hear me, you are not alone tonight." As soon as Luna finished speaking, something amazing happened. The crystals around her station began to glow, brighter. Their humming grew louder but still stayed soft and peaceful. It was as if they were helping to carry her message across the vast distances between the stars. Pip made a series of gentle beeps. His electronic eye grew brighter for a moment. He was excited too. Even though he was just a small robot, Pip could feel the magic that was happening. He rolled closer to Luna and made soft whirring sounds that meant he was happy. Far away in the darkness of space, Luna's message was traveling. It moved faster than light, carried by invisible waves that flowed between the planets and moons. The message passed by sleeping space stations and quiet planets where night had fallen. Luna waited and listened. She hoped that someone would hear her message and send a reply. The minutes passed slowly. The crystals continued their gentle humming. Pip made sleepy beeping sounds as his systems prepared to rest for the night. Then it happened. The radio crackled softly, and Luna heard a faint sound coming through the speakers. It was not words, it was something much more beautiful. It was the sound of someone far away sending back a message of friendship. The sound was like a distant bell ringing across a quiet valley. More sounds began to come through the radio. Each one was different, but all were gentle and peaceful. Some sounded like singing. Others sounded like wind chimes in a soft breeze. A few sounded like the gentle lapping of waves on a peaceful shore. Luna smiled, and her blue skin seemed to glow in the soft light of the radio equipment. She had done something wonderful. She had connected with other peaceful souls across the galaxy. Tonight, no one who heard her broadcast would have to feel alone. The asteroid field around her station looked more beautiful than ever. The crystals pulsed gently with warm light. The stars seemed closer and friendlier. Even the darkness of space felt cozy and welcoming. As Luna prepared to send out another gentle message, she felt grateful for this magical night. She had found a way to spread peace and comfort across the galaxy, and this was only the beginning of her wonderful journey among the stars. Far away from Luna's asteroid station, on the forest moon of Endor, the twin suns were setting behind the tallest trees. The sky was painted in soft colors of orange and pink, like a gentle watercolor painting. Long shadows stretched across the forest floor, making everything look peaceful and dreamy. High up in the branches of the biggest tree in the village, old Wicket sat on a platform made of smooth wood. His brown fur was getting gray around his wise old face. His small black eyes twinkled like tiny stars as he looked out over the forest that had been his home for so many years. Wicket was the village storyteller. Every night when the suns went down, the young Ewok cubs would climb up to his treehouse to hear his wonderful tales. Tonight was no different. 5 little Ewok cubs sat in a circle around a small fire that crackled softly in a stone bowl. The cubs were different colors and sizes. There was little Tebow with dark brown fur who always asked too many questions. Next to him sat Nisa with her golden fur that looked like sunshine. The smallest cub was Latara, who had light brown fur and the biggest smile. Paplu sat quietly with his reddish fur while young Logray played with a small wooden toy. The fire in the stone bowl burned with gentle orange flames that danced up and down like they were trying to reach the stars. The flames made warm light that flickered across the cubs' furry faces. Sweet smoke rose up from the fire, carrying the smell of burning wood that made everyone feel cozy and safe. Around the treehouse platform, thick vines hung down like natural curtains. These vines were covered with small flowers that glowed with soft blue light when darkness came. The flowers looked like tiny lanterns that the forest had made to light the way for sleepy creatures. Wicket was about to begin his story when something strange happened. A small radio that sat on a wooden shelf began to make soft crackling sounds. The radio was old and had been found many seasons ago near the place where the big war had happened. Most of the time it was quiet, but tonight it was making gentle noises. The old Ewok got up slowly and walked over to the radio. His feet made soft padding sounds on the wooden floor. He turned a small knob, and the crackling became clearer. Then, through the speakers came the most beautiful voice he had ever heard. It was Luna's voice traveling across the galaxy on her special frequency. Her words were in a language that Wicket did not understand completely, but he could hear the kindness and peace in her voice. He could feel that she was trying to bring comfort to anyone who might be listening. Wicket's eyes grew wide with wonder. He had heard many things on the old radio before. Sometimes he heard the voices of Imperial soldiers or the beeping of machines. But this voice was different. This voice was gentle and full of love, like a mother singing to her children. The little cubs stopped playing and looked up at their grandfather. They could see that something special was happening. The glowing flowers around the treehouse began to pulse with brighter light. Even the forest animals seemed to be listening. In the distance, a gentle hooting sound came from a family of wise, old owls. Wicket began to translate Luna's message into the Ewok language. His voice was soft and musical as he spoke. He told the cubs that, somewhere far away among the stars, there was a kind person who wanted everyone in the galaxy to know they were not alone. She was sending messages of peace and friendship to all who would listen. The cubs listened carefully to every word. Their small hearts filled with happiness to know that someone so far away cared about them. Tebow asked if they could send a message back. Wicket smiled and nodded his gray furry head. The old storyteller began to sing an ancient Ewok lullaby. His voice was scratchy but full of warmth, like the sound of wind through autumn leaves. The song was about the forest and all the creatures who lived there. It told of how every tree and flower and animal was connected like one big family. As Wicket sang, the cubs began to join in. Their young voices blended with his older one like a musical stream flowing through the forest. The song grew louder, but stayed soft and peaceful. Other Ewoks in nearby tree houses heard the singing and began to add their voices too. Soon the entire village was singing the forest lullaby. The song carried on the evening breeze through the tall trees. Night birds stopped their own singing to listen. Small, furry creatures poked their heads out of tree holes to hear the beautiful sound. The radio somehow picked up their singing and began to broadcast it back across the galaxy. Luna, sitting in her asteroid station, could hear the gentle Ewok voices coming through her speakers. The sound made her smile and filled her heart with joy. On Endor, magical things began to happen as the lullaby continued. Tiny lights appeared in the forest like floating stars that had come down to dance among the trees. These lights were made by small insects that only glowed when they felt completely safe and happy. A family of banthas who lived in a clearing nearby heard the singing and came closer to the village. These big, gentle creatures usually stayed away from the Ewok homes, but tonight they felt drawn by the peaceful music. They stood at the edge of the forest, swaying slowly back and forth like they were dancing to the lullaby. Even the fierce creatures of the forest felt the magic. A large Gorax who lived in the mountains heard the singing carried on the wind. Instead of making his usual loud roars, he sat down on a hilltop and listened quietly. For the first time in many years, he remembered what it felt like to be peaceful. The singing continued as the last light faded from the sky. Stars began to appear through the canopy of leaves above the village. The moons of Endor rose slowly, casting silver light on the forest floor. Everything looked magical and dreamlike. As the lullaby came to an end, Wicket spoke into the radio. He used simple words that he hoped Luna would understand. He told her thank you for her message of peace. He said that the forest moon was sending back love and friendship to her and to all the stars. The cubs were getting sleepy now. The fire had burned down to soft, glowing coals. The flower lights around the treehouse pulsed gently like slow heartbeats. One by one, the little Ewoks curled up on soft cushions made of woven grass and fell asleep with smiles on their furry faces. Wicket covered each cub with a warm blanket made from the softest moss. He whispered goodnight wishes over each one. Then he sat back in his comfortable chair and looked up at the stars through the leaves above. The old Ewok felt grateful for this magical night. Luna's message had reminded him that the galaxy was full of kind souls who cared about peace and friendship. As he drifted off to sleep, he could still hear the gentle crackling of the radio carrying messages of love across the vast distances between the worlds. On the desert planet of Tatooine, the twin suns were slowly sinking toward the horizon like two golden coins dropping into a vast sea of sand. The sky was painted in the most beautiful colors anyone could imagine. Soft orange mixed with gentle, pink and warm purple. The colors spread across the heavens like silk scarves dancing in a light breeze. Old Ben Kenobi sat on the front porch of his small adobe home. The house was built into the side of a rocky hill where it stayed cool even during the hottest days. Ben was not his real name, but it was what the desert people called him. His long gray beard moved gently in the evening wind. His kind blue eyes watched the sun set just like he had done every evening for many years. Ben wore simple brown robes that were soft and comfortable. The fabric had been worn smooth by years of desert living. His feet were bare and felt good, against the cool stone of his porch. In his weathered hands he held a small cup of blue milk that was still warm and sweet. The old man had lived alone in the desert for a very long time. Sometimes he felt lonely, especially when the long nights stretched out before him. But tonight felt different. Tonight the desert seemed to be humming with a special kind of peace that he had not felt in many seasons. Inside his simple home, an old radio sat on a wooden table. The radio was very old and had been damaged many times by desert sandstorms. But Ben had fixed it carefully, and it still worked. Most nights he listened to the distant chatter of moisture farmers or the weather reports from the spaceport in Mos Eisley. As Ben sat watching the beautiful sunset, soft crackling sounds began to come from inside his house. He got up slowly and walked inside. His bare feet made almost no sound on the smooth stone floor. The radio was making gentle noises like it was trying to tell him something important. Ben turned the volume knob carefully. Through the speakers came the most wonderful voice he had ever heard. It was Luna broadcasting from her asteroid station far away among the singing crystals. Her gentle words carried across the galaxy, bringing messages of peace and hope to anyone who might be listening. The old hermit sat down in his comfortable chair next to the radio. The chair was made of soft cushions that his friend had given him long ago. As he listened to Luna's peaceful words, his eyes filled with tears of joy. For so long he had felt cut off from the rest of the galaxy. But now he knew that somewhere, among the stars, kind souls were working to bring peace to the universe. Luna's broadcast was mixing with other gentle sounds now. Ben could hear the beautiful forest lullaby from the Ewoks on Endor. Their sweet singing blended with Luna's voice, like honey mixed with warm milk. The combination made the most soothing sound he had ever heard. Outside Ben's house, something magical was beginning to happen. The desert animals who usually hid during the day were coming out, even though the suns had not fully set yet. They seemed to be drawn by the peaceful radio broadcast that was flowing out through Ben's open windows. A family of small sand creatures called womp rats peeked out from behind rocks near the house. Usually these creatures were afraid of everything and everyone, but tonight they felt safe and curious. Their small brown eyes reflected the colorful light of the setting suns. From the distant sand dunes came a sound that made Ben's heart skip with wonder. It was the gentle rumbling call of a crate dragon. But this was not the fierce roar that these creatures usually made. This was a soft musical sound, like the dragon was trying to sing along with the peaceful broadcast. Ben walked outside again and looked toward the sound. Far away across the desert, he could see the huge shape of the crate dragon moving slowly toward the oasis that lay hidden in the valley below. The creature was not hunting or being fierce. It was moving with the slow, peaceful steps of someone going to a place of rest. At the oasis, other desert animals were gathering too. A family of banthas had come down from the rocky hills to drink the cool water. Their thick gray skin looked soft in the gentle light of evening. Baby banthas stayed close to their mothers, while the adult animals drank peacefully from the clear. Spring dewback lizards who usually avoided other creatures were also at the oasis. These large reptiles moved slowly and calmly. Their scales caught the last light of the suns and sparkled like precious gems. Even the tiny creatures like sand beetles and glow moths were coming together in groups around the water's edge. Ben decided to walk down to the oasis himself. He had not seen so many creatures together in peace for many years. The walk down the sandy hill felt easy and pleasant. His feet sank slightly into the warm sand with each step. The evening air was cooling quickly and felt wonderful against his skin. When Ben reached the oasis, he could hardly believe his eyes. All around the small pool of water, creatures that were usually enemies were drinking side by side in perfect harmony. The crate dragon lay curled up near some large rocks. Its huge head rested peacefully on its front legs. The dragon's eyes were half closed, and it was making soft rumbling sounds that sounded almost like purring. The radio broadcast was somehow reaching all of these creatures too. Ben realized that Luna's peaceful frequency was touching the hearts of every living thing on Tatooine. The planet that was usually harsh and dangerous had become a place of gentle wonder for this one magical evening. Ben sat down on a smooth rock, near the water's edge. Small desert birds landed on his shoulders and arms without any fear. A baby womp rat came close and sniffed at his hand with its tiny nose. Even some of the shyest creatures came near him because they could feel the peace that filled his heart. As the last light faded from the sky, the stars began to appear. Tatooine's night sky was famous for being the most beautiful in the galaxy. Tonight it seemed even more spectacular than usual. The stars twinkled like friendly eyes looking down on the peaceful gathering at the oasis. Ben pulled out his own small communication device. It was very old, but it could still send messages across space. He spoke into it with his gentle voice that was full of wisdom and kindness. He thanked Luna for her beautiful broadcast. He told her that even on a desert planet far from everywhere, her message of peace had brought creatures together in harmony. The old hermit looked around at all the animals resting peacefully by the water. For the first time in many years, he did not feel alone. He felt connected to Luna far away in her asteroid station. He felt connected to the singing Ewoks on their forest moon. Most of all, he felt connected to every living creature in the galaxy who longed for peace and friendship. As Ben walked slowly back to his house under the star-filled sky, he carried with him a heart full of hope. The desert night felt gentle and welcoming. Even the sand beneath his feet seemed softer somehow. He knew that tomorrow the harsh desert world would return. But tonight had shown him that peace was always possible when kind souls reached out across the darkness to share their light with others. High above the gas giant planet called Bespin, Cloud City floated like a dream made real. The huge floating city drifted slowly through layers of soft white clouds that looked like cotton balls scattered across the orange and pink sky. Dawn was coming to this part of the galaxy, and the first light of the system's bright star was painting everything in gentle golden colors. Captain Lobot guided his cloud car through the misty air around the city. His cloud car was small and quiet, with smooth curved wings that cut through the thick atmosphere like a fish swimming through calm water. Lobot had been flying these routes for many years. Usually he only thought about his flight path and his schedule. But this morning felt different somehow. The pilot had cybernetic implants on his bald head that helped him communicate with the city's computer systems. The implants usually filled his mind with data about wind speeds and traffic patterns. But this morning they were picking up something else. They were receiving a gentle radio signal that was unlike anything he had ever heard before. It was Luna's peaceful broadcast traveling across space and mixing with all the other gentle sounds from across the galaxy. The Ewok lullabies from Endor, blended with the desert songs from Tatooine. Now these beautiful sounds were flowing through the computer networks of Cloud City like a river of peace. Lobot slowed his cloud car and let it drift gently through a thick bank of clouds. The white mist swirled around his vehicle like silk scarves dancing in a soft breeze. Through the mist he could see the lights of the city twinkling like stars that had come down from space to rest among the clouds. Cloud City was built on many levels connected by bridges and platforms that floated in the air. The buildings were white and curved like seashells. Gardens grew on many of the platforms filled with flowers and plants that loved the misty air. Water fell in gentle streams from level to level, creating the sound of tiny waterfalls everywhere. On one of the lower platforms, a family of Tibana gas miners was finishing their work shift. They had been working all night in the deep mines, far below the city. Their clothes were dirty and they were very tired. But as they rode the elevator up toward their homes, they heard Luna's broadcast playing softly through the city's speaker system. The miners had never heard anything so peaceful and beautiful. Their leader was a woman named Kira who had worked in the gas mines for 20 years. She had gray hair and kind eyes that had seen many hard things. But as she listened to the gentle sounds flowing through the speakers, her face softened and she smiled for the first time in weeks. The other miners gathered around Kira as the elevator rose slowly through the levels of the city. There was old Marcus with his white beard who always told funny stories. Next to him stood young Jenna, who was just learning to work in the mines. Twin brothers named Cole and Drake leaned against the elevator walls looking more relaxed than anyone had seen them in months. When the elevator reached the residential level, the miners, did not go straight to their homes like they usually did. Instead, they walked out onto one of the garden platforms where the morning light was just beginning to shine through the clouds. The platform was covered with soft grass and flowers that sparkled with tiny drops of moisture from the mist. Kira sat down on a stone bench that was carved to look like flowing water. The other miners sat on the grass around her. They all looked out at the incredible view of clouds stretching endlessly in every direction. The gas giant planet far below them was hidden by layers of white and gold mist that moved like slow ocean waves. High above them, Captain Lobot was having his own peaceful moment. He had landed his cloud car on a small platform and was standing outside breathing the cool morning air. The cybernetic implants on his head were no longer filling his mind with data. Instead, they were helping him hear Luna's broadcast more clearly than ever. For the first time in years, Lobot was not thinking about flight schedules or computer systems. He was thinking about how beautiful the sunrise looked as it painted the endless clouds in shades of gold and pink and orange. He was thinking about how lucky he was to live in such a magical place. Other people throughout Cloud City were having similar experiences. In the casino level, gamblers who usually stayed up all night were putting down their cards and dice to listen to the peaceful broadcast. They gathered near the big windows that looked out at the dawn sky and watched the colors change as the morning grew brighter. On the shopping levels, store owners who were opening their businesses for the day stopped their work to enjoy the gentle music flowing through the air. Children who were walking to school slowed down to listen and began to notice things they had never seen before. They saw how the morning light made rainbow colors in the water droplets on flowers. They heard how their footsteps made different sounds on different types of platform surfaces. In the administrative center of the city, even the busy officials and computer technicians paused in their work. They looked out through the tall windows at the city floating peacefully in the vast ocean of clouds. Some of them had lived here for so long that they had forgotten how amazing it was to live in a city that floated in the sky. The broadcast was having a special effect on the city's systems too. The computers that controlled the repulsor lifts seemed to run more smoothly. The platforms floated with even more grace than usual. The artificial gravity systems hummed with a gentle rhythm that matched the peaceful sounds coming through the speakers. As the morning progressed, people throughout Cloud City began to send their own messages back across the galaxy. They used the city's powerful communication arrays to broadcast their thanks to Luna and to all the other worlds that had shared their peaceful sounds. The miners on the garden platform started to sing an old song that gas workers had sung for generations. It was a song about floating through endless skies and finding beauty in the clouds. Their voices blended together and rose up through the misty air like birds taking flight. Captain Lobot added his own message by programming his cloud car's navigation computer to send out gentle electronic tones. The tones sounded like wind chimes made of light and air. Other pilots flying around the city heard the sounds and began to make their own peaceful music with their vehicles. From every level of Cloud City, gentle sounds rose up and joined together in one beautiful symphony. The sounds mixed with Luna's, broadcast and carried out into space where they would travel to other worlds and bring peace to other hearts. As the sun climbed higher and the morning mist began to clear, the people of Cloud City felt more connected to each other and to the galaxy than they had in years. They had been reminded that even in a city that floated above the clouds, they were not alone in the universe. They were part of a vast community of beings who all longed for peace and friendship and beauty in their lives. Deep beneath the endless oceans of Moncala, the coral cities glowed with soft bioluminescent light that pulsed like slow heartbeats through the water. The cities were built from living coral that had grown over thousands of years into beautiful, curved buildings and towers. Everything was connected by graceful bridges that swayed gently with the ocean currents. In one of the smaller districts of the great underwater city, young Akbar tended to his special garden of sea flowers. He was not yet the famous admiral he would one day become. Right now he was simply a young Mon Calamari, who loved growing beautiful things in the depths of the ocean. His large eyes were bright with curiosity, and his webbed hands moved carefully among the delicate plants. The sea flower garden was Akbar's favorite place in the entire city. The flowers grew in neat rows on the sandy ocean floor. Each flower was a different color and glowed with its own special light. Some were soft blue like the color of shallow water on sunny days. Others were gentle green like the new growth on coral reefs. A few rare flowers glowed with warm purple light that reminded Akbar of the deep ocean mysteries he dreamed of exploring someday. The water around the garden was crystal clear and very still. Small fish swam between the flowers like living jewels. Their scales caught the bioluminescent light and sparkled as they moved. Tiny seahorses floated near the flower stems, holding on with their curved tails. Everything in the garden was peaceful and perfect. Akbar wore simple work clothes made from woven seaweed fibers. The clothes moved gracefully with him as he swam, from flower to flower, checking on their growth. His large flippered feet pushed gently against the water as he glided through his underwater paradise. He carried a small mesh bag filled with nutrients for the plants and tools for tending the garden. As Akbar worked among his flowers, he began to hear something strange and wonderful. At first he thought it might be the song of the great space, whales who sometimes passed near Mon Cala during their migrations across the galaxy. But this sound was different. It was coming from the communication center in the middle of the city. The young Mon Calamari stopped his gardening work and listened more carefully. The sound was flowing through the water like music made of light and peace. It was Luna's broadcast, mixing with all the other gentle sounds from across the galaxy. The Ewok lullabies and the desert songs and the Cloud City symphonies were all blending together in the most beautiful harmony Akbar had ever heard. The broadcast was being picked up by Mon Cala's powerful underwater communication systems. These systems were designed to listen for sounds from space, including the songs of the great whales who traveled between the stars. Tonight, the systems were receiving something even more special than whale songs. As the peaceful broadcast flowed through the water, amazing things began to happen throughout the ocean world. The coral cities began to glow brighter than usual. The bioluminescent organisms that lived in the coral responded to the gentle sounds by pulsing with warmer and more beautiful light. Schools of fish that usually swam in small groups began to come together in huge, peaceful gatherings. Thousands of silverfish moved together like living clouds through the water. They swam in perfect formation, creating patterns that looked like underwater dances. Their movement was so smooth and graceful that it seemed like they were all sharing one peaceful mind. Giant sea creatures who usually lived alone in the deep trenches began to rise toward the coral cities. Ancient sea dragons with long, flowing fins came up from the darkest depths. These creatures were usually so shy that most Mon Calamari had never seen them, but tonight they felt drawn by the peaceful broadcast to join the community of beings celebrating peace and friendship. Akbar watched in wonder as one of the great sea dragons swam slowly past his garden. The creature was longer than 10 Mon Calamari put together. Its scales were deep blue and purple, and they glowed with their own inner light. The dragon's huge eyes were kind and wise. As it passed by, it made a gentle rumbling sound that seemed to say hello to the young gardener. Other Mon Calamari throughout the city were coming out of their homes to see the amazing gathering of sea creatures. Families swam together toward the central plaza where the largest and most beautiful coral formations grew. Children laughed with delight as friendly fish swam right up to them without any fear. The city's elders, including the wise old leaders who guided Mon Cala, gathered in the council chambers. But instead of discussing politics or trade agreements, they listened in amazement to the peaceful broadcast. Some of the elders were so moved by the beautiful sounds that they began to weep tears of joy that mixed with the ocean water around them. In the deepest part of the ocean, something truly magical was happening. The great space whales who lived in the void between stars had heard Luna's broadcast too. These enormous creatures were swimming through space toward Mon Cala. Their songs were mixing with the radio signals, creating a symphony that could be heard both in the ocean and in the emptiness of space. Akbar could hear the whale songs getting stronger as the great creatures came closer to his world. The songs were deep and powerful, but also gentle and peaceful. They spoke of long journeys between distant stars and of the loneliness that could be found in the vast emptiness of space. But they also spoke of hope and of the joy that came from finding other peaceful souls across the galaxy. The young Mon Calamari decided to add his own voice to the growing symphony of peace. He had learned to sing the traditional songs of his people when he was just a small child. These songs told the stories of Mon Cala's history and of the great adventures of those who had come before. Akbar began to sing an ancient lullaby that Mon Calamari mothers had sung to their children for countless generations. His voice carried clearly through the water, and other Mon Calamari began to join in. Soon the entire underwater city was filled with the sound of thousands of voices singing together in perfect harmony. The song they sang was about the ocean and all the creatures who lived in its depths. It told of how every fish and every plant and every grain of sand was connected like drops of water in the endless sea. The song spoke of peace and of friendship and of the beauty that could be found when all beings worked together for the good of everyone. As the Mon Calamari sang their ancient lullaby, the space whales above them added their own deep voices to the melody. The combination of whale song and Mon Calamari voices created something so beautiful that it seemed to make the very water around them glow with extra brightness. Fish from every part of the ocean came to listen to the singing. Creatures that had never been seen before rose up from the deepest trenches to join the celebration. Even the smallest organisms began to pulse with light and rhythm with the music. Akbar felt his heart swell with happiness as he realized that his small world was connected to every other world in the galaxy. Luna's peaceful broadcast had shown him that no matter how far apart different beings might be, they could always find ways to share their love and kindness with each other. The young Mon Calamari looked up through the clear water toward the surface of the ocean far above. Through the water, he could see the faint lights of stars twinkling in the sky. He knew that somewhere among those stars, Luna was listening to their songs and feeling the same joy that filled his own heart. As the night grew deeper and the songs continued, Akbar felt more grateful than ever to be part of such a wonderful universe. The ocean around him seemed more beautiful than ever before. The coral cities glowed with warmer light. The fish swam with more grace. Even the water itself seemed to sparkle with extra magic. The broadcast had reminded everyone on Moni, Kayla, that they were not alone in the vast ocean of space. They were part of a great community of beings who all wanted the same things: peace and friendship and the chance to share their beauty with others. And that knowledge made even the deepest and darkest parts of the ocean feel warm and safe and full of light. Back in her small radio station floating among the singing asteroids, Luna felt more happy and peaceful than she had ever felt in her entire life. Her heart was full of joy from all the beautiful sounds that had been flowing back to her through the special bedtime frequency. The Ewok lullabies and desert songs and Cloud City symphonies and ocean world harmonies had all mixed together to create the most wonderful music in the galaxy. The asteroid field around Luna's station had changed during this magical night. New flowers had begun to bloom on the surfaces of the floating rocks. These were space flowers that only appeared when the galaxy was at perfect peace. They were unlike any flowers that grew on planets. Instead of roots in soil, they grew directly from the crystal formations that covered the asteroids. The space flowers were every color that Luna could imagine, and some colors that had no names. They glowed with soft light that pulsed gently like sleepy breathing. Some flowers were large with wide petals that looked like silk scarves floating in the gentle solar winds. Others were tiny and delicate like sparkling jewels scattered across the rocky surfaces. Pip, the astromech droid, had been rolling around the station all night listening to the peaceful broadcasts. His electronic systems had been filled with happiness as the beautiful sounds flowed through the radio equipment. Now, his battery was getting low, and his movements were becoming slower and sleepier. His little dome head rotated back and forth as he looked at all the space flowers blooming outside the station windows. Luna stood up from her radio operator chair and stretched her arms above her head. Her blue skin seemed to glow with contentment in the soft light of the space flowers. She walked over to the big round window and looked out at the incredible sight of the asteroid field in full bloom. It was like looking at a garden made of stars and dreams. The crystals that grew on the asteroids were humming more softly now. Their song had changed from the gentle melodies of earlier in the evening to the quiet, whispered lullabies that came at the end of a perfect day. The sound was so peaceful that it made Luna feel drowsy and ready for sleep. She turned back to her radio equipment to send out one final message to all the worlds that had shared their peaceful sounds with her. Luna sat down at the microphone and spoke in her gentlest voice. Her words carried all the love and gratitude that filled her heart. "My friends across the galaxy," she whispered softly, This is Luna speaking to you one last time tonight. Thank you for sharing your beautiful songs and your peaceful hearts with me and with each other. Tonight we have shown that no matter how far apart we may be, we are all connected by the love and kindness that lives inside every living soul. As Luna spoke, responses began to come back through the radio from every world that had been part of the night's magical celebration. From Endor came the sleepy voices of Ewok cubs saying goodnight in their own musical language. From Tatooine came the gentle whisper of desert winds carrying messages of peace across the sand dunes. Cloud City sent soft electronic tones that sounded like wind chimes made of light and air. The sounds drifted through space like gentle rain, falling on flowers. From Mon Cala came the fading echoes of whale songs mixing with the quiet splash of ocean waves against coral reefs. Each world was sending its own special goodnight message back to Luna and to all the other worlds in the peaceful network they had created together. The messages were not just words. They were feelings of friendship and love and hope for sweet dreams that would carry everyone safely through the night. Luna smiled as she listened to all the goodnight messages flowing through her radio. She felt like she was being tucked into bed by the entire galaxy. Her heart was warm with the knowledge that somewhere on every world, beings were falling asleep with peaceful thoughts and happy dreams. The young Twi'lek began to power down her radio equipment for the night. The green and blue lights on the control panel grew dimmer as the machines went to sleep. The soft whirring sounds of the electronics faded to gentle whispers and then to comfortable silence. Pip rolled over to his charging station in the corner of the radio room. The little droid plugged himself in and made a series of quiet beeps that sounded like he was saying goodnight to Luna. His dome head settled down and his electronic eye began to dim as he entered sleep mode. Luna walked over to her sleeping area, which was a cozy alcove built into the curved wall of the station. The sleeping space had a comfortable bed with soft pillows and warm blankets. The walls were lined with smooth padding that made everything feel safe and snug, like sleeping inside a gentle hug. She changed into her comfortable sleeping clothes, which were made of fabric as soft as flower petals. The clothes were the same gentle blue color as her skin, and they felt wonderful against her tired body. Luna climbed into her bed and pulled the warm covers up to her chin. Through the small window next to her bed, Luna could see the space flowers continuing to bloom across the asteroid field. The flowers were glowing more softly now, like nightlights that would watch over sleeping souls throughout the galaxy. Their gentle light danced and swayed in the solar winds, creating patterns that looked like dreams made visible. As Luna settled down to sleep, she could still hear the faint whisper of peaceful sounds flowing through space. The galaxy was settling into slumber just like she was. On every world that had been part of the night's celebration, creatures were finding cozy places to rest and dream. On Endor, the Ewok cubs were curled up in their soft beds high in the treetops. The forest around them was quiet, except for the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant hooting of sleepy owls. The glowing flowers that decorated their tree houses pulsed softly like gentle heartbeats. On Tatooine, old Ben Kenobi was resting peacefully in his simple adobe home. Outside his window, the desert was calm and beautiful under a blanket of stars. At the oasis, all the creatures that had gathered in peace were sleeping side by side in perfect harmony. High above Bespin, Cloud City floated serenely through layers of soft mist. The people of the floating city were sleeping soundly in their comfortable homes. The city's lights twinkled gently like stars that had come down from space to rest among the clouds. Deep beneath the oceans of Mon Cala, young Akbar was sleeping, in his coral bed surrounded by his garden of glowing sea flowers. The underwater city pulsed with soft bioluminescent light that made everything look like a peaceful dream. The space whales sang quiet lullabies as they continued their journey among the stars. Luna felt her eyes growing heavy as she thought about all the peaceful souls across the galaxy who were sharing this perfect night of rest. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges and new adventures, but tonight was for peace and dreams and the gentle knowledge that somewhere in the vast universe there were always friends who cared. The space flowers outside her window glowed a little brighter as if they were saying goodnight to her personally. Luna smiled sleepily and closed her eyes. Her breathing became slow and peaceful as she drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the gentle humming of crystals and the soft whisper of solar winds. As Luna fell asleep, her dreams were filled with all the beautiful places and wonderful beings she had connected with through her magical radio broadcast. She dreamed of singing with Ewoks in moonlit forests and flying through sunset clouds above Bespin. She dreamed of swimming with space whales in oceans of stars and walking peacefully across desert sands under friendly skies. The galaxy slept peacefully that night, knowing that kindness and friendship could reach across any distance and that no soul ever had to feel alone in the vast ocean of space. And in her small station among the singing asteroids, Luna slept the sweetest sleep of all, surrounded by space flowers and dreams of universal peace.